right now we have a friend of mine who, I'll be honest with you, like when you talk about honors in life, being the first guest on this show and this show's history is probably at the top of the everything that Biderman has gone through. Like, he got married recently. Who cares? You're on. It's compared to the Matt and Kayla show. That's crumbs. Chris, tell me, Chris Biderman joining us now. Chris, how honored are you? How excited and thankful are you to be on this show right now? It's a big break for you, buddy. We're so excited to help you out here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. I'm honored, and I very much appreciate it. I'm also a little bit worried for you guys. I'm your first ever guest. I didn't know you guys really had to like go to the bottom of the barrel to find your first guest. But the good news is it's probably all up from here for you guys. So congratulations on that.
We got a lot of no's. We're turned down by a lot of people. Look, we're a small show. We're starting out. We got to build that cred. But, Chris Biderman will go on any show with just about anybody. No, Chris is phenomenal. He does amazing coverage of both the Sacramento Kings and the San Francisco 49ers for the Sacramento Bee. He is one of the hosts of the Candlestick Chronicles podcast, which dives deep into 49ers talk. And we're going to primarily focus on the Niners with you, Chris, and then we'll sprinkle in a little bit of Kings at the end. But Kayla and I were talking about that win in Philadelphia. There's so much from that game to talk about. We could get into George Kittle's injury too. But I felt like that win really summed up or summarized the entire season. Just a very gritty battle and hostile territory that the Niners found a way to win despite all the circumstances.
Yeah, totally agree. I think it's a real testament to what Kyle Shanahan has built, and this is kind of a years-long foundation that he's put in place there. And what stands out to me is, obviously I think in the NFL, coaching is probably more important than any other major sport, right? Just having an X's and O's advantage is paramount in that league. But there's also a level of buy-in that Kyle Shanahan has elicited from his players that I think is pretty unique. Like, you talk to guys on that team and they will tell you that like what Kyle Shanahan can illustrate in meetings and showing film, just has them believing, like, even if they aren't as talented, if you do this on this particular play and you execute to this level, we can beat anybody. And the players really believe that, they buy into that. And I think that's played a huge role in the season going the way it has, to go 12-5 despite missing Brock Purdy for 8 games, sorry. And, obviously not having George Kittle for a spell and missing so many other guys for so many different lengths of time. It's just been really impressive. And, we've seen the 49ers win in Seattle before. They've won their last 4 games there. This is obviously a very good Seattle team that just throttled them 13-3 in the season finale. But I think the 49ers have to at least feel like they have a puncher's chance going up there in the divisional round. And yeah, I think it's all a testament to what Kyle Shanahan has done there.
Chris Biderman joining us now on the Matt and Kayla Show. Feels crazy to say that, but it's here, and we appreciate you hopping on as our first guest, Chris. So Brock Purdy, and we've had the conversation throughout the year, when Mac Jones came in for him and played really well, and then it was like, okay, he's got the team in a groove, but Brock Purdy came back. He had maybe a bad game, and then he bounced back to the regular Brock Purdy program. But yesterday we see the 2 interceptions with him. It felt like at some point when they lost George Kittle, and they all knew probably why they lost him, that we saw a little bit of a lull in the offense. But how much credit do you give, and where do you give it for maybe how the ending of this game went, specifically with how the offense executed?
Yeah, I think Brock Purdy deserves a lot of credit. There was the numbers do not favor the 49ers when they lose a turnover battle, and particularly when they lose it by 2 or more. I forget. My buddy Nick Wagner had the tweet, but it's like 2-28 or something since Kyle Shanahan became head coach, that when the 49ers lose the turnover battle by 2 or more, they just have a horrendous record. And it felt like it was kind of the formula, right? Like, we've all watched the 49ers deal with injuries over the last few years. And when you lose a star player in the middle of a game, and when you turn the ball over, it's just like, all right, you're just kind of going to bleed a slow death here. But then it turned out that, they do the reverse pass from Juwan Jennings to Christian McCaffrey. And that completely changes the momentum of the game. The 49ers are down by 6 points, and then all of a sudden they have a lead, and the defense forces, 3 straight punts from the Eagles offense. And it's like, what? The 49ers actually have a chance here. And then you could hear it through the broadcast, the crowd sort of turning on that Eagles offense and the Boo Birds coming out. And that was sort of the formula for the 49ers to win the game, right? Like, we know the defense is severely undermanned, but they're very well coached by Robert Saleh, and they can do just enough against that sort of struggling Eagles offense to keep the Niners offense in it. And that's exactly what happened. And then you have, like I said, you have the McCaffrey touchdown from Jennings, and then you have Brock Purdy lead the touchdown drive late to retake the lead after the Eagles get a field goal. And it's just really impressive stuff. The fact that the 49ers defense can play at that level despite not having Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and being down to linebackers who they signed in late November and early December, and Eric Kendricks and Garrett Wallow. Like, it's just impressive across the board. How long can they keep this going? I think that's a significant question, of course. But again, like, you remember in 2021 or after the 2021 season, the 49ers were in the exact same position. They were the number 6 seed. They went to Dallas and beat Dallas in the wild card round. They had to go to the number 1 seed Packers on a short week in Lambeau Field. They won that game 13-10. So it's not completely unprecedented for the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan to be in this position. I will say this team is dramatically less talented given the injuries than that 2021 team. But there's no reason to believe they shouldn't at least have a puncher's chance in Seattle.
Chris, we have to use you to set the standard, set the bar. So here on the Matt and Kayla Show, you're going to have to answer the hard-hitting questions. So get ready for this one that I guarantee you've never expected. Should Juwan Jennings have been the backup quarterback over Mac Jones all along? Because that dude can throw the football.
He sure can. And you remember, I mean, if you were locked into the draft stuff when Jennings was drafted, a big part of his evaluation was he went to Tennessee as a high school quarterback.
Yep.
And then he converted to receiver at Tennessee and became a fan favorite there. So it's not surprising. And it's funny that he's had 2 touchdown passes in big playoff moments. Like, that's pretty remarkable. He might have won the Super Bowl MVP had the 49ers beaten the Chiefs a couple years ago, because he also had a touchdown pass to Christian McCaffrey in that one. But no, I mean, the Mac Jones point can't really be overstated. Not to take anything away from Juwan Jennings and his quarterback acumen, of course, but Mac Jones' value to the team. I've talked to a couple guys in the 49ers locker room just about, like, how have you guys managed to stay afloat this season? Because we've seen them have injuries at this level before and they just couldn't survive it, right? But this year they could, and they all credit Mac Jones. They say, Mac Jones being able to keep the offense afloat, to play at a winning level the way he did while Brock Purdy was out with his turf toe, is basically the reason why the 49ers were able to maintain their record and go 12-5 and be in the position that they're in. So it's not very often that a backup quarterback can really save and stabilize your season, but that's what's happened for the 49ers this year. And I don't think it can be overstated how important Mac Jones has been.
Chris Biderman, kind enough to join us on the Matt and Kayla Show today. Chris, this is the elephant kind of in the room now, though, when the season does end. And, we'll see how far it goes, like you said, with not a lot of pieces left. But this team is kind of like a juggernaut. You can't take them down. What is going to go on in terms of maybe the age of this team and what they really need to start focusing on? Because you see George Kittle, you see some of the wide receivers that can't use McCaffrey like they continue to do like that as a wideout this year. How do you see the future going for them in what the next step will be?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. They certainly have a little bit more financial flexibility than we would have anticipated with Brandon Ayuk and his blooming departure, right? All signs are pointing to Brandon Ayuk no longer being on the team, and the 49ers basically getting back roughly $30 million a year in cap dollars. I wonder if that allows them to re-sign Juwan Jennings, right? Does it allow them to be a little bit more aggressive in free agency? They can certainly use some help along the offensive line, and at some point they're going to have to find a replacement for Trent Williams. And Trent has said he wants to keep playing. So maybe they don't invest, a first round draft pick on an offensive tackle until Trent Williams actually retires, which might even be a year or two away still. So Kyle Shanahan is always going to want to draft receivers. The 49ers have made it very clear that they prioritize that position early in the draft. We've seen all the receivers they've drafted early. So it wouldn't surprise me there. And it also wouldn't surprise me if they continue to use resources on the defensive line.
Yeah.
Nick Bosa, second ACL tear since entering the league. He had a partly torn ACL while he was in high school. He's getting up into his late 20s now. So it's going to be hard to count on Nick Bosa to be, a consistent all-pro level player, I think, at this point in his career. You drafted Mykel Williams last year, the defensive end out of Georgia. He tore his ACL midway through the season. They could still use help at defensive tackle. I know they've liked what they've seen from Alfred Collins and CJ West, but when the 49ers were, contending early in Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's tenure, they had DeForest Buckner, they had Eric Armstead. So I guess in the off season, going to be receiver line, and hopefully for them, they can hit on those positions early in the draft, if not free agency.
You brought up Brandon Ayuk, Chris, and it wasn't overnight, or it wasn't like Brandon Ayuk stepped into the Niners organization and it was immediately looked at as the weapon he turned out to be. He had to kind of work his way into that. Of course, the Niners are missing Ricky Pearsall right now, who is their definitely deep ball threat. But, I mean, Demarcus Robinson stepped up, I think, in a major way. I feel in a major way in Philadelphia, caught 6 passes, 111 yards, had the touchdown, averaged like 18 yards a reception. He was huge, especially in that first half for the 49ers to get that offense going. In terms of, like, I know it's Shanahan's system and you always got to give credit to the system, but does he have a chance, you think, to become more for the future of this Niners organization? That, yes, they're still going to look in the draft at receivers like they always do, but he can be someone that's looked at in the same way eventually as we looked at Brandon Ayuk when he got that payday.
You're breaking up a little bit. You're talking about Demarcus Robinson?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. He's at an advanced stage in his career. I think he's certainly somebody that the 49ers wouldn't hate to have back, at least on a reasonable number. I forget what his contract status is. But I would say long term, they would still want someone else, maybe another high draft pick in at that position. You remember Brandon Ayuk, when he signed that deal, they locked him in for the next 3-4 years initially. So obviously a lot's changed there. But, it wouldn't surprise me at all if the 49ers get in the trade market even. Like there's potential to get in the trade market. We see receivers pretty often in the NFL, elite ones, get traded. And I do wonder if the 49ers are setting themselves up to make a move like that, knowing that they're not going to have George Kittle now for at least a significant portion, if not all of next season, right? So you do wonder if they're going to be active in the trade market because of that space they have. They could go big game hunting potentially. So, but Demarcus Robinson has been really solid with the exception of that suspension he had early in the season. I would say, if he's your third or fourth receiver, you're probably in a pretty good spot. I think it's probably asking too much to build your offense around him as a number 2 guy at this point in his career. But again, still a very solid player, has been to the playoffs a ton, has a ton of experience and been on good teams. So having him around is not a bad thing, but in terms of building a receiving core going forward, I would imagine the 49ers use another early draft pick at the position.
Chris Biderman is joining us. We're talking a little Niners. We'll talk Kings here in just a moment. Chris, okay, Fred Warner, we're seeing the videos. I love it when I see the guys out there after they're coming off a big injury, especially a guy like Fred Warner, who is heart and soul of this team. What's the realistic possibility at some point, if they keep advancing, that we see Warner back?
Kyle Shanahan said last night that it was unlikely his practice window would get open this week. Never say never, I would say, but it seems unlikely. I think Shanahan's accurate about that. And then if the 49ers win this week, the following week has sort of felt like the target date for Fred Warner's return if he can make it back. So I wouldn't rule him out entirely this week. I think it's unlikely, as Kyle Shanahan said, but next week would seem to be the target. The way Fred Warner's talked about it on his podcast and the stuff he posts, it seems like he's very intent on getting back if the 49ers can get to the NFC title game. So that would be my guess. Again, that's just me speculating. I hope to get down to Santa Clara this week to try to get a better feel for that situation. But yeah, I mean, the fact that they got what they got from Eric Kendricks and Garrett Wallow Sunday in Philadelphia makes you feel a lot better about the Niners linebacker situation going into this week than you were going into the Eagles game. But that said, Fred Warner's one of one. He's a Hall of Famer. He might be one of the best linebackers of all time. So if you can get him back on the field without risk of major injury, I think you try to do that for the NFC title game.
Chris Biderman covers the San Francisco 49ers both for the Sacramento Bee, the Candlestick Chronicles. But, Chris, are you a scientist, and can you explain to me how electromagnetic fields or whatever are destroying the 49ers from within, quite literally? Do you subscribe to this?
So I don't want to say I subscribe to it, but I am less dismissive of it than I think I've been in recent weeks. I saw the social media posts, whenever it first went viral a few weeks or months ago, whenever that was, I forget. But asking people sort of adjacent to the scientific community, asking, a former player who was with the team, and he noted that, there's a there's a parking lot between the electrical substation and the practice facility, and there are trees lining that parking lot. And there are also trees on the other side of the practice field, on the other side, opposite of the electrical substation. Those trees on the far away from the electrical substation are much healthier than the trees that are next to the electrical substation, and that has been observed by this former 49ers player, who was mentioning that to me. So I don't know what to make of that. I don't know if there's any sort of correlation between tree limbs and ligaments and things like that, but I'm not going to rule it out outright. What I would say is I'm surprised that it's 2026 and we don't have more concrete science around this. Right. I have a healthy bit of skepticism that it's more than a conspiracy theory, but I think I'm more open to it being real. But again, like, I'm just surprised that we don't have like a better understanding of this, because science has come, but medical science is at such a crazy place compared to what it was even, 10 years ago. So I'm surprised that we don't have more concrete data about this.
The San Francisco 49ers destroying trees and Achilles, apparently.
Goodness. Chris, one more for me about the Niners. We had a conversation a bit about this today, because we see the coaches of the year and who's up for it. And there's some really good coaching jobs this year, no doubt about it. But I think, like, if you haven't seen it yet, you saw it on display last night firsthand. Why, or maybe I'm missing something, why do we feel like Kyle Shanahan isn't getting as much love for that coach of the year when it comes to it?
I think it's a narrative award that's largely a result of what your expectations are. Like, the 49ers have, they've gone to 2 Super Bowls. They've gone on a couple more deep playoff runs with Kyle Shanahan. So I think generally people look at it like, well, Shanahan's been good. The Niners are supposed to be good. And it kind of takes, a look under the hood to really see why Kyle Shanahan has been coaching at such a high level this year, or what makes this year unique. Whereas, I guess it's, for lack of a better term, probably low-hanging fruit to say, well, Mike Vrabel is, taking a second-year quarterback to a top seed in the AFC in his first season with this team. Ben Johnson's doing something similar in his second season in Chicago. Like, it's easier from a narrative perspective to make that case because they don't have the track record. And, sometimes in these scenarios, like, Kyle Shanahan's previous success is a detriment to his case for coach of the year, because people just expect the 49ers to generally be in the mix. But, I think he would have nailed down coach of the year had they beat Seattle and got the number 1 seed. But I think people who really understand, or who have been paying attention to what's happened with the 49ers this season, understand that, like, what Kyle Shanahan's doing is largely unprecedented and is the best coaching job of his career, which is saying a lot, because I think he's objectively, one of the 5 best coaches in the NFL, and to take this team to a 12-5 record was super impressive, and obviously beating the defending Super Bowl champions on their home field to open the playoffs was equally impressive.
Well, Chris Biderman is nearly a perfect human being. His one flaw is his association with that other Northern California basketball team, the Golden State Warriors over there, who beat the brakes off the Sacramento Kings over the weekend. But the Kings beat the Rockets, so who cares? Steph Curry, after that game, was asked about the Kings-Warriors rivalry. And a couple of years ago, when there actually was something there after a playoff series, even De'Aaron Fox was super dismissive of it then when he was with the Kings. And Steph essentially said, like, it's other than, like, it's geographically, sure, it's a rivalry. Other than that, like, no, not at all. I'm sure you have thoughts on that, especially going into tonight in a Kings-Lakers game where the Lakers wouldn't consider the Kings rivals. But to me, the Lakers will forever be the Kings rivals because of an obvious year that we don't have to talk about. Chris, what do you have feelings or thoughts on a Kings-Warriors rivalry, quote unquote?
If De'Aaron Fox had stayed with the Kings, if Mike Brown had stayed with the Kings, De'Aaron Fox is wearing Curry brand sneakers. Like he obviously has a relationship with Steph. Mike Brown, of course, came to the Kings as a Warriors assistant. If the Kings had remained relevant in terms of playoff contention with Mike Brown and De'Aaron Fox, and they had I think there's no doubt it would have turned into more than just a geographic rivalry. I think there would have been some real feelings there, just because of how that first round playoff series went a few years ago. Like, I think De'Aaron Fox and the Kings could make a great case that they would have won that series had Fox not busted his finger, right? And then if the Kings win that series and dethrone the defending NBA champions, then I think, there probably would have been some discussion about, I saw someone tweet, I totally forget who, about the Kings ending the Warriors dynasty. But the following year after the play-in game. But no, I think it would have been really considered a rivalry had those key characters remained with the Kings. And I think ultimately, I don't think there's any connection between Steph Curry and Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. Like this, there's no basketball tension there in the same way there would have been if De'Aaron Fox and Mike Brown stayed.
Okay, Chris, this has been a weird last couple of days when it comes out to this information about Dennis Schroeder being suspended for 3 games after an incident that happened back on December 28th when he supposedly, got in a confrontation with Luka Doncic. Like, why is this so messy? And why are we figuring it out now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was not in LA for that. So I don't have a ton for you on the details of it. I would say that the reason why it might have been delayed is there's probably some sort of investigation that has to take place. I would imagine it took a few days for the NBA to talk to the necessary people and the parties involved and to gather as much information as they could and then come down with a decision. I would guess that it's just a coincidence that Schroeder's suspension comes while the Lakers are here. I think it probably would have happened regardless. But no, I'm more curious too, just about how the Kings feel about that. Like, I know
Sure.
Doug Christie likes the fact that Dennis Schroeder is an irritant, and Doug Christie certainly has no love lost for the Lakers. So I do think that there's some part of Doug Christie that enjoys the fact that Dennis Schroeder did do that. But at the same time, this is, an important player to your team and you need him available. So it doesn't help that he got suspended. So, I'd be curious to know what the Kings really feel, how the Kings really feel about the situation and what conversations they've had with Schroeder about it. But other than that, I think in terms of the timing, I think it probably just took some time to get all the information for the league and for them to come down with that suspension.
That's Chris being a professional. What he wants to say is the NBA is protecting their baby boy, Luka Doncic, and don't want him to get roughed up by the boss.
Could have been the Kings' baby boy. Could have been the Kings' baby boy.
Okay, well, and on that note, get him off the air. We're not ending with those vibes. Hey, Chris, go tell your lovely wife you made it. You were on with Matt and Kayla on Sactown Sports, first ever guest, career pinnacle. It's only down from here, bud.
We got to get him a little like a award or something.
Yeah,
first,
you're getting a plastic
There we go.
participation
There we go.
trophy that you give the kid that's terrible, but his mom signs him up for like T-ball. That's what you're getting. It's in the mail.
I appreciate that. I'm going to update my resume.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you, guys.
It will certainly not be the last time we have the wonderful Chris Biderman of the Sacramento Bee on the show. He'll be at Kings Lakers tonight in the Golden One Center, and we will talk Kings basketball finally. We got to talk about Dennis Schroeder trying to fight Luka Doncic and why he's a hero that Sacramento loves and needs. Kind of, not really. But I did ask Doug actually about Dennis before last night's game, and he had some interesting comments on that, which I will share with you. We'll talk a little bit more about the Kings-Warriors rivalry and why I feel Kings-Lakers absolutely still is a rivalry, regardless of what they say. And the Rockets had one of the weirdest excuses, kind of, not really, for why they lost to the Kings for the second time this season. I'll explain all of it coming up next.